Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
On this Friday. Happy Friday to you on Sports Daily. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage here, kicking off the Friday edition of the program, a big-time program on the way for you. We will talk to the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, in our very next segment. We'll get you ready for the final regular season college basketball weekend for all three of our home teams that we root for, the Shockers, the Jayhawks, and the Wildcats. We'll preview all of their games this weekend as the show rolls on. The KFH hotline is open at 869-1240. Appreciate you tuning in today as we kick off this Friday. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm good. How about you, big boy? 2 days in a row, my man, in the studio. Hello, everybody. I got my man, Tom.
In our video stream on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you'll be able to see both Paul and I's lovely faces here on this Friday morning. So we appreciate all of our video stream viewers tuning in to the program today. You can always find it on those three platforms. Like I mentioned, we've got Wyatt Thompson coming up in our very next segment, but we're going to kick off the program today with some Chiefs news, Paul. Drew Tranquill, a linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, agrees to a new deal with Kansas City. It's a 3-year, $19 million deal, $13 million of it fully guaranteed. This is a guy, Paul, that joined the Chiefs last season after spending 4 years with the Chargers. He came over as a free agent, started about half the games for Kansas City in the regular season, but was a key contributor off the bench for Kansas City. And I think what makes this deal really interesting, knowing that it's a 3-year, $19 million deal, makes me wonder if they are slotting him in to be a starter next season for Kansas City on the defense.
It might be. That makes total sense, particularly with the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I mean, if this wasn't that kind of deal, the money seems to be a good indicator as to what is going to happen, or at least what the Chiefs have planned for this young man. So it's good for him. I mean, he's being given a shot. Man, that's what you want. 3 years, 19 million, 14 of it, or is it 13 million guaranteed?
Yeah, 13 million
13
guaranteed.
million's guaranteed. So, good for him. But the Chiefs say that this is a guy that they must have confidence. He's played enough. They know him well. Into the system, he's going to be what they want to do, or this contract wouldn't have taken place. Not like this.
Yeah, so he will be 29 when the season begins next year.
Correct.
And, I think the thing about Tranquill and what we saw this last season from him as one of those key contributors off the bench for Steve Spagnuolo's defense was a lot of energy. He brought a ton of effort. Every time he was on the field, that's what he did. And so I think that knowing kind of what he has brought over the last year, he's got that opportunity, I think, to slide right in to a starting role. What makes this even more interesting, Paul, is the fact that Willie Gay Jr. is a free agent. And so a lot of speculation with this guaranteed contract from Tranquill is that Willie Gay probably will not be returning to Kansas City.
Right. 4.5 sacks. I mean, that doesn't roll your socks up. I mean, hugely, but
hey, he didn't start,
That's right. But he didn't start, so you've got to think, well, maybe there's something there. And obviously at this point, we've got to have faith in the Chiefs and the front office and the coaching staff and, the scouts, the guys that make these decisions. We just got to have confidence, because there's a lot of pieces to having a repeat Super Bowl champion. Oh, I mean, come on. You got Patrick Mahomes. That's all you got to say on a repeat. But, he always gives you that chance. But you just, somewhere along the line, you look at these kind of deals and you go, the front office, I got to have confidence that this is a piece that they fit in. Now, solely, if it was just one deal, you go, it's okay. But not this. You got to have, this is a championship team with the potential of another championship. I'm buying this. I don't have a problem with it.
Here's my concern with it. I don't think it's a bad deal.
Well, there's always concerns about. Go ahead.
I don't think it's a bad deal. I liked watching Tranquill last season because, again, the energy that he brought defensively, and they could piece him in, and he was able to, come in and make an impact. Even though he wasn't starting a bunch of the games, he started 8 games last season for Kansas City. My concern with it is, as a part-time starter and coming off the bench, he made an impact. Will he be able to slide into Willie Gay Jr.'s role and be effective as a starter? Because, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Brett Veach is not giving a player $13 million guaranteed to be a part-time starter,
Right.
To be a second string guy in the depth chart. He's given him $13 million guaranteed over 3 years as a linebacker to replace Willie Gay.
You just answered your own question. The answer to that question was yes.
Okay.
Will he fit it? Yes, because for all the reasons and I don't need to go back over them, for all the reasons you just said, the answer to your question very simply is, well, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if you've got a defense next season that, by all accounts, I think we can both agree, was an elite level defense last year for Kansas City.
That's right. That's right.
All of a sudden, you take that defense entering into next year, more than likely without L'Jarius Sneed, more than likely without Willie Gay Jr. We don't know about Chris Jones. They haven't re-signed him yet. So I think that's kind of up in the air. What do you give the potential of this defense next season, knowing that more than likely they're going to be losing at least Sneed and Willie Gay?
Need more info. Yeah. Because, you lose those kind of guys. Who do you go get? I mean, it's a little early to judge. Where will they be?
At least from a linebacker perspective, I don't know if they're going to go out and get anybody because they just signed Tranquill.
Well, that might be.
That we might be looking at who that replacement is.
Right.
Somebody internally to come in as a linebacker.
But you're going to have to pony up a little bit for Chris Jones. You're going to have. Yeah. I mean, there's no question that we all want him signed.
Yeah.
He's got gas left in the tank, I think. Don't you?
He does. And
I think he does.
It's going to be interesting to see how Kansas City structures potentially a new contract for Chris Jones.
Right.
Let's go to the KFH hotline now, 869-1240. Anthony on the line wanting to chime in. Good morning, Anthony. What's on your mind?
Well, y'all got this thing going so much so I feel like we're in a trigonometry class with this Kansas City. All these moving parts. You don't know who's going. It's kind of like who's at home, who's on first, what's at second, and where's third. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. A lot of moving parts, especially defensively, Anthony. I mean, the idea of you've got, like I just mentioned, an elite level defense where we don't exactly know what they're going to be looking like next season. And a lot of those key contributors, including L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay, may be out the door.
Sometimes you almost wish in football that to an extent it would be like baseball to a certain extent. Because, baseball is that one sport that doesn't have a salary cap. Whereas with football, you have a salary cap. Granted, it grows each year, but at the same time, it doesn't always benefit the teams that need to be benefited from the growth of the salary cap, as is the case with the Kansas City Chiefs. Because you got the Patrick Mahomes deal, and, he could probably only restructure his so much to move some money around to where they can sign other players. But even that, it runs out. So at what point do they really increase the salary cap to where it would benefit a team like the Chiefs and they wouldn't have to worry about this problem of, okay, how can we keep this player happy and how can we keep this player happy and how can we keep them the Chiefs for the long haul? So I'm glad that they are the ones that get paid the big bucks to figure it out. And as the casual fan looking from the outside in, I'm just glad I don't have to worry about that problem.
Well, look, Anthony, I'll answer your question, and thanks for the call for coming in today. We appreciate it. I'll simply answer your question by saying this. They're not going to increase the salary cap. It's not going to happen anytime soon. If it does, I think we're looking at a while down the path before that happens, because here's the bottom line. The NFL likes the parity. They like the parity across the entire league. Major League Baseball, they're in a situation now with the haves and the have-nots. The Dodgers
I hate that.
Have a ton of budget to go and sign Shohei Ohtani and others.
Exactly.
And teams like the Royals or the Rays, they don't. They don't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think the NFL has a big appetite for increasing the salary cap right now.
That's why I hate the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Red Sox. Are those the three bigs?
The Mets.
And throw in the Cubs maybe. But it's unfair the way baseball works. And then teams like, Oakland and Kansas City have to struggle to figure this stuff out. I don't want that. I don't want that in the NFL.
Well, and look, I think that to Anthony's point, it is a lot of moving parts. I think
It
you
is.
used the word trigonometry.
Yeah,
It takes, I think,
is.
some kind of advanced financial degree
You're right.
to be an NFL general manager
I got
and work
you.
in the front office
I got you.
to figure out how to balance all these moving parts with the salary cap.
You're right.
We know Tranquil's coming into Kansas City. Probably means Willie Gay is out. We'll see how the rest of it all pans out as the days and weeks move on. After the break, we've got Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us to talk about the Wildcats' tournament chances. That and a ton more. It's on the way next on Sports Daily.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio. 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
Your new radio home for K-State Athletics, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on Kansas State. Let's go now to the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily here on a Friday, joined, as always, on Fridays by the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, with us. Wyatt, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. It's a crucial game tomorrow for Kansas State at home in Bramlage, taking on Iowa State. I mean, really, we're at a point now where the Wildcats, they've got to really not only win this game tomorrow, but make a run in the Big 12 tournament if they want any kind of consideration for the NCAA tournament. How crucial, I mean, I know it's obviously crucial, so that's an obvious, but in your mind, what do you think the path is for Kansas State to try to find some kind of postseason play?
Well, I think really if you're looking at the NCAA tournament, tomorrow is an absolute. Yeah. I mean, you just have to get it. And then you better do some serious damage in the tournament. And by that, I mean probably at least get to the finals or play well through the semis. Would you agree with that? I mean, I just think that's kind of even the way those guys are looking at it. We had the Jerome Tang show last night. He talked about that a little bit. The players talked about it yesterday at a little presser promoting senior day in the game and what have you. So they've they kind of know where they sit. They've put themselves in a most difficult position here because, as you say, you got to do it tomorrow. And the problem with that is you're playing one of the very best teams in the country. It looks like Iowa State could be as high as a 2 seed. They're 24-6. How about this? Think about this. They have lost 2 games since we were in Ames. At Baylor, at Houston. That's crazy. That's very good.
It is. And I know that you were obviously at the Sunflower Showdown on Tuesday and watching that game. And it was interesting to me because I felt like the Wildcats started the game out with a good amount of energy. I thought Arthur Kaluma looked great early on. And I don't know if it was a combination of things. I don't know if it was partially, you're playing your in-state rival or on the road or exactly really what played out. In your mind, that game got away from the Wildcats, obviously, towards the end. What were your big takeaways from that? I know Coach Tang blasted, the effort in that game and that sort of thing. Do you think that was just a one-time deal, or is that indicative, do you think, of a larger issue?
Well, I would say I'm hopeful that it's a one-time thing because we all understand, that 1, KU played well, 2, they're hard to beat in their barn, right? I mean, nobody would probably argue with that. And, K-State was in the game at halftime. They weren't in great shape, but they were in the game. But I think what disappointed Coach Tang the most is when KU came out and jumped on the Cats in the second half, the big beginning of that. I think he felt like he could see, with their drooping shoulders and just the look on their faces that they really kind of, frankly, they just didn't give enough effort to stay right there. And it just got worse and worse. And he was really disappointed by that, even to the point where, in the post-game presser and with us, he apologized to the K-State fans and said it was unacceptable. I think he is okay with how the guys have responded since, which basically was yesterday and into this morning. They were totally off on Wednesday. It was a frustrating game. I think the other things that stick out, he talked about this. Think about this. You play 40 minutes of basketball and get 2 offensive rebounds. He was really upset about that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
I get it. Hunter Dickinson had 20 rebounds, right? But you got to go get a few of your own, right? And then I think you look at it too. Foul shooting has been up and down for this team all year long, but they go 10 of 21 and KU goes 28 out of 31. And then the third thing and final thing would be He was also upset with the fast break points. K-State was really good against KU in Manhattan with that, but in Lawrence it was 21-5 Kansas. So there were some things to be frustrated by easily, for sure.
Right. You know, you had mentioned that you thought maybe it would take at least getting up to the semifinals, and Tommy and I are in disagreement. Tommy thinks you got to get all the way to the championship game and win the automatic.
And he may be right, by the way, Paul.
And he might be.
He may be right.
I think if they had a great tournament, and of course, obviously, without being said, beat Iowa State.
Yeah, you have to do that.
You got, no matter what scenario there is, you got to beat Iowa State, and you got to beat them at home on Saturday before any of this other stuff that we're talking about. But I'm of the opinion that maybe if you have a great tournament and you lose in the finals, but you got to the finals, that might do it. But here's the thing, Wyatt. People know there are no secrets in college basketball. And the fact is, nobody on that committee wants a team that's like, well, we're done. We're not going to give effort. We're done. Right. That these guys, all these guys on the committee and everybody that makes decisions knows that K-State did not have a good game against KU. As a matter of fact, they quit. I don't like to, Wyatt, I'm sorry. I don't mean to use the word quit, but we didn't get the effort that you want to see and a Coach Tang coach team is going to give.
Sure.
And that's a worry to me, Wyatt. I'm not going to lie to you. I can't lie to you. I've known you too long. Sure. I can't lie to you.
I know.
The quit was palpable.
It was tough. I'm not going to kid you on that one. And this is the second year I've worked with Coach Tang, and I think that effort in the second half was probably the most disappointed and frustrated that I have seen out of him in the time he's been at K-State. So hopefully that puts it into perspective for your listening audience that he was not happy in any way. It is hard when you're not making shots. And the other thing too is usually when you go over there, and it makes it so hard because you're fighting 16,300, right? And they have been good at home. They've only lost one time at home, and that was to BYU. And they almost I'll give them credit for this, man. I think you have to. They always seems like when K-State goes over there, they always have one guy that plays really, really well and above what he's been doing. And I think we saw that with Timberlake. Give him a lot of credit, man. Yeah. He was kicking. He was good.
Yeah.
You can argue all day whether it was, him making shots or K-State not defending well or a combination of both. But the deal is he scored like 18 points. That's big time for them.
Wyatt, I know that, and we're going to get back to talking more about, the actual basketball on the court and what the Wildcats have to do and all of that. But I do want to bring this up because I know that, you were obviously in Allen Fieldhouse on Tuesday night. Anybody that knows me, I grew up a KU fan. I've been, around that program for a long time. It's such a great rivalry. It's so much fun. There's always talking points. The handshake deal after the game on Tuesday. I think, there's been obviously so much discussion. It's great fodder for sports talk radio, for our show, for our listeners, all of that. I'm of the opinion, and coming from a KU fan's, opinion, I don't want these two programs to like each other. I don't want the coaches to have a great relationship. I don't want Bill Self and Jerome Tang hugging at midcourt. I'm okay with a little bit of a frosty relationship. What was your takeaway from all of that big dust up and the blow up after the game?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't know if this would have been a thing at all had Bill Self not said something about it in his presser. I've looked at the tape. I looked at the tape at the end of the game here. I'm not sure there's a ton of difference between, and again, I'm using Coach Self's terms, a fly-by or blow-by or whatever he called it. I just didn't see much difference in the tape. So you go back to what you said, being a KU guy, and maybe you don't want him, maybe the frosty relationship is okay. I don't know this for a certainty, but in visiting with Coach Tang about it, I think he was a little surprised by the comments. But hey, it's competition, man.
Yeah.
You saw what happened with K-State and Iowa State at the end of the game in Ames.
Right.
These things happen in the heat of battle. It's just what it is.
And you know what? Why? Like,
know,
was it manufactured drama? Sure, absolutely. And I think that when there is a in-state rivalry, and you've got to get and for both sides, I would say probably for both Bill Self and for Jerome Tang, trying to add some extra fuel to the fire to get these college kids up and ready to go for a game against your heated rival. I think sometimes those manufactured type, bulletin board material type things,
Sure.
it does have, a place in the game, especially against rivals.
Well, if you talk to Coach Tang, the one thing that he has said that really caught my attention was he says he's learned since he's been here too what the rivalry means to K-Staters.
Sure.
And yet in the same breath, he has said, hey, we've got to start winning more to make it the rivalry that everybody wants it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's on task, don't you?
I do.
That's legitimate.
Yeah.
And that is his task and what he wants to accomplish. And it's hard. I say this all the time. I've been here 22 years. I've gone over there, set up my equipment, done games there 22 times. And I've walked out of there a winner one time.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that it shows you how difficult it is. That building is, they talk about Hilton Magic. Whatever is better than Magic is what's happening there. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just being honest about that. They've had, in my time, they've had great coaches there. They have great players. And they just play very well in that building. And I'm telling you, it was as loud the other night a couple of times as I've heard it in there in a while. And that place is always loud.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, we could talk about this all day, but to me, I respect Coach Tang for what he says about if you really want it to be, hot under the collar and heated, K-State's got to win more games.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what he hopes to do.
And Wyatt, look, I absolutely am a major believer in Jerome Tang and what he has built and continue to build in Manhattan. And look, going back to what the Wildcats have to do to get into the big dance, I mean, I'll be flat out honest with you. I think that if there is any coach in America that can rally his team to not only win at home tomorrow against a team that looks like they could be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament and then go on a run in the Big 12 tournament and maybe win the whole dang thing, I'm not sure I would pick another coach other than Jerome Tang to get his team ready to go for that.
Well, it's a good take, I think, on your part. I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about long odds here, right?
Right.
I mean, either way, win or lose tomorrow. If you lose tomorrow, as an example, you're going to basically be playing in the 2:00 game on Tuesday, and then you've got to win Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm not a big betting guy, but I don't know too many friends that would put a lot of money on doing that, right?
Yeah.
And because of the competition. And then if they are fortunate enough to beat a really good team tomorrow, okay, then you're going to play probably in the 6:00 game on Wednesday. And depending on how tomorrow goes, you could get an Oklahoma or a Texas or a TCU. There's no guarantee of that either, right? So they've played themselves into this. But I think what you're saying is, and I appreciate that, he's telling his guys, why not us? You've seen teams get on rolls before.
Sure.
Why not us? And I think that, the chances of them doing it are slim. But why not think that way? You give yourself a shot if you think that way, or hope to play like that. They just haven't been as consistent as they've needed to be, and we all know that.
Right. Well, I've got a tough question for you here, Wyatt. And I'm being tough on you today, aren't I? I apologize.
That's okay, that's what this is about, man.
All right.
That's okay.
Well, here's my question. Let's say, for instance, that Kansas State does not get that invitation to the big dance, and so obviously they're going to get an NIT. I don't think there's any question about that. And when you get that NIT, what is the mindset of this team going to be? Personally, now this is just me, Wyatt. Being an old football coach, still coaching, there's still that competition in me. I can't help myself. But if Kansas State was to get that NIT tournament bid, would they go into this thing with the mindset of winning the darn thing, or would they go in, or would they go into this as, oh man, I don't want to do this. Let's get this over with and get our uniforms checked in and get the rest of the semester going. What is the mindset of this team? Because I've got to ask that. Would this team have a mindset of winning the darn NIT tournament?
Well, the worst thing you can get out of me in an interview like this is a fence rider.
Sure.
Okay? But with that said, I don't know if I'm smart enough to tell you what the right answer is to that.
Okay.
And I say that from this perspective. And I'll use Tyler Perry as an example. He committed to Jerome Tang because of how much he liked the way the program was moving, the type of individual he is on and off the floor, the fact that he wanted to be in the NCAA tournament with a team like this. And that hasn't exactly worked out, at least to this point. I use him as the example because as good a player as this kid is, he's never played in an NCAA tournament.
Yep.
And I don't know how to judge the disappointment if they don't on what he would have left in the tank, or anybody else for that matter, if you're NIT bound. I could make an argument that because they've been resilient, they've had lots of warts, fellas. We know that. We've talked about it all year long. But they continue to show up and they continue to fight. Would they do that with the NIT? I would like to think they would. But I certainly wouldn't want to guarantee it just because of the way things have happened, because they have at times struggled with turnovers and free throws and, offensive stretches where they're not very good. That's not real conducive to, putting together a pretty good little run there. But you never know.
Well,
yeah, and you know why? I'll tell you, I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days. One of my favorite bets for the game tomorrow is Tyler Perry over his points. And the reason I say that is because, he had such a disappointing game in Lawrence on Tuesday. And as you mentioned, this is a kid that has never played in the NCAA tournament. I think part of that motivation, and you alluded to it, is the other players on that team trying to do everything that they can to lift this guy to an NCAA tournament. He's already got an NIT championship with North Texas. He did it. He's been there, done that, but he's never played it in the big dance. And so, it wouldn't shock me at all, especially at home. The last regular season game inside Bramlage for this kid, for him to go over his point total, take the game over. We've seen him do that during stretches in Big 12 play, doing everything that he possibly can to get this team to the NCAA tournament.
I agree with all of that 100%. I truly do. The only thing that stands in the way of that is Iowa State.
Right.
And I'm just telling you guys, they are better than everybody thinks they are. Yeah. And the reason they are, I brought this up in some other interviews and things this week. They are defending better right now than they have, in my mind, probably in a 5, 6, 7, 8 year stretch. That's my personal opinion. The other thing that makes them so tough and so dangerous is they were really tested the other night by BYU. I'll just give you this example, okay? Kamen Lipsey played well. He's their point guard, really tough kid, great defender, on and on and on. The other real star for them, Gilbert, didn't play well at all. Mm-hmm. Because he didn't, that opened up an opportunity for Curtis Jones, and he was excellent. They are very efficient, both ends of the floor, one of the best in the country. I think they're one of the few teams in the country that's in the top 15 or so in offensive and defensive efficiency together in America. So my point is this: K-State's been inconsistent. We talked about that. But I think K-State could play really well tomorrow, and Tyler Perry could have a 25-point game, and it might not be enough. I'm not doom and gloom here and saying they're going to lose. I'm just saying it's going to be really hard to win. It's going to be really hard to beat them.
Yeah, it certainly is. And to your point also about how tough Iowa State is, this is a team that they still have something to play for. I mean, they're still competing for a Big 12 regular season title. And so that's going to be a big motivation for them as well as they head into Bramlage tomorrow. You've got the call.
Houston's playing Kansas, not West Virginia.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. You've got the call tomorrow. And of course, we've got the game right here on KFH. Anything broadcast wise that you want to let our listeners know about tomorrow?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about the senior group, and it's been a unique group for me personally. We've talked about Tyler a lot, and Will McNair is also going to be recognized, and that we have a walk-on, Taymont Lindsay, who I really, really think a lot of. So we'll talk, about some of that, and We'll have, the typical stuff too with the scout from the assistant, which is Rodney Perry tomorrow, and Coach Tang, and kind of set the stage for what should be a very interesting final Saturday in the conference race before we head to Kansas City. And I'm sure, like me, you guys are all pumped up about next week. That should be crazy tournament when we get there. Crazy.
Yeah. One more quick question. This is about the conference, about the Big 12. This has been one unbelievable Big 12 basketball conference. I mean, anybody can beat anybody. You got two teams. You got Houston and Iowa State. What are the chances? And we don't know the brackets. They may have to face each other. We never know how this works out without the brackets. But what kind of chances do you think Houston and Iowa State, if properly bracketed, could both end up as Final Fours? Because I'm sitting here thinking, I watch these teams. They are dogs. They are dogs on defense. They are tough.
Yeah.
They are gritty. They are just the kind of teams that can be successful in this kind of tournament. And am I thinking that it's too much to think that these two teams could be in the Final Four, but bracketed just right? They couldn't they, Wyatt?
Well, I think that's certainly possible. And you look at it, Houston's going to be a one.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it'd be hard to think that they will play themselves out of the number one. They may or may not be the number one overall one. That could be Connecticut maybe, or Purdue. So that's a little up in the air. But I do think your point is a good one from the standpoint of you hear coaches say all the time, defense travels. And both of these teams are the two best defensive teams in this league, and I think that's why they're where they're at.
I do too.
To me, Iowa State probably is a little bit better consistently in making shots. And Houston's not a great foul shooting team. Well, actually, neither are great foul shooting teams. I just hope that doesn't catch up with them when you get into the big dance. But they have a lot of pieces otherwise. So I think they're both certainly more than capable, yes.
Well, Wyatt, hopefully next Friday we'll be talking to you and you'll still be in Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. That's obviously our hope. That'd be great.
I would love it.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. But of course, as we have talked about all morning, it starts tomorrow inside Bramlage. The game tips off at 1:00. Pregame begins at noon, and you'll have the call and the coverage right here on KFH. We appreciate your time, Wyatt, as always. It's always an exciting time. We're getting right into that big stretch, and we've got a lot to talk about with Kansas State as they are trying to play their way back into the bubble. We appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Great talking to you as always. Thank you so much.
There goes Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats here on Sports Daily. Always appreciate his time and insight joining us here on Fridays. And you can go back and listen to that. We're going to have it up on the Odyssey app anytime. Just search for Sports Daily. You can check in on all of that content from the show and our conversation with Wyatt Thompson. We'll preview the rest of the college basketball slate for the final regular season in college basketball as the show rolls on. The KFH hotline is now back open the rest of the way at 869-1240. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, and Jad Chambers coming right back on Sports Daily. Welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily on KFH. And once again, our thanks to Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats, for joining us as he does on every single Friday show. By the way, before we move on, I want to thank our friends over at Prairie Fire Coffee. Paul, enjoying a delicious mug of Prairie Fire Coffee here this morning.
I am.
We want to thank them for keeping us caffeinated every single day here on the program. If you missed anything from our interview with Wyatt Thompson, you can always go back and listen to it on the free Odyssey app. Paul, I know we talked about it yesterday with Tim Fitzgerald, talked about it today with Wyatt Thompson. It's really up in the air for Kansas State, and they're running out of games to be able to show the committee that they deserve an NCAA tournament bid. But as we've talked about multiple times, it starts tomorrow inside Bramlage.
My head says that this is a team that can get it back to they can't get, I should say they can't get it back together. This is a team that
you don't think they can.
That's what my head says.
Okay.
But you know what my heart says? This is a Coach Tang coached basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
He's something special.
Yeah.
I think he is something special. And I know that if I was one of his players, I'm so impressed with Coach Tang that I'd give everything I've got. And I would say, you know something, I'm not going to go out on a whimper no matter what happens. We're going to play hard. We're going to give great effort. There's not going to be any quit. Now, that's what my heart is saying. And that Coach Tang has a way of getting this message out to these kids. I hope I'm not wrong. I hope my heart is right on this. But my mind says, boy, that K-State took a whooping, and it looked like they didn't care that much.
And look, I think that if they follow up that effort on Tuesday with another effort similar to that tomorrow, that's going to tell you all you need to know about this team.
All I need to know. If it's a bad whooping, you've told me all I need to know.
But if they've responded to the way that Jerome Tang has talked about them publicly and probably over the course of the practices this week, if they respond well to that, like I mentioned with Wyatt, I don't think there's a better coach in America to be able to rally the troops than Jerome Tang.
And, we talked about, particularly this is a home game. I mean, you've got to feed off of that. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like.
I hope it's good.
Well, I hope it's sold out. That's right.
Yesterday, Tim Fitzgerald, if you listen to that interview, he was a little bit pessimistic about the crowd and about the fan base, kind of being ready to be done with this season and pack it up and all of that.
I hate that, but he might be right.
But look, I think that it shouldn't be that way. I mean, look, this fan base, you've got a chance, and it doesn't matter. It could be a very slim chance, but there's still a chance to get an NCAA tournament bid.
Right.
And, we know the way that the two Kansas teams don't like each other. But I would say second to that would be Iowa State and Kansas State. They don't like each other either.
Right.
And there was drama after the game in Ames earlier this season. This is a game, final regular season home game, senior day, all of that.
Right.
Fan base needs to show up.
They got to show up.
They got to have a good crowd there.
And K-State, the team itself has to show up.
Absolutely.
By the way, we have that game right here on KFH. Hey, Jad, what time is that game tomorrow? The K-State game for on KFH right here?
It's a 1:00 tip.
Do you know it's a
1 o'clock tip?
1 o'clock tip.
12 o'clock.
I want to make sure everybody that can't get to a TV, you have a chance to listen to it on KFH.com or what radio.com, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But it's gonna be a fascinating game. I'm not saying it's going to be a great game, and it may not be it may be a frustrating game, but interesting this game is. It is going to be very interesting to watch to see how they respond. And it's kind of a human nature story. It's kind of a story of resilience. Do you have that resilience? Can you bounce back? I don't know, but I think it's a fascinating story on how this, and we'll know very quickly. I think we'll know pretty quickly in the first 5 minutes of that game how this team has responded to Coach Tang.
I said it a few minutes ago. If you are a betting individual and you're looking for bets for this game tomorrow, Kansas State and Iowa State, follow me, tail me. Because I'm taking Tyler Perry and his over on points. I don't know if I've ever been more convinced about something. I think it's a lock. I haven't even looked, and I'm sure they won't even post it until tomorrow, the sports books, as far as what that line is. But man, I think Tyler Perry, the chance to will his team to victory against Iowa State, and especially after the egg that he laid on Tuesday in Lawrence, that he didn't have a single field goal made against Kansas. He had 2 points and they were free throws. And this is a guy who has taken over games in conference play. He's going to want to get that that bad taste out of his mouth, and you've got a chance to get him to the NCAA tournament. Not only do I like his over tomorrow, I think he's a guy that could potentially take over in the Big 12 tournament to try to find a way to get himself to the NCAA tournament for the very first time.
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of times we say this is a big game for somebody in whatever sport, but this really, truly is a big game for K-State. There is a lot on the line, particularly with the way this team goes into a fight or it comes out of a fight. One of the two. There's going to be – this is a big story, Tommy, and we got to just see how they do. I'm curious. But off the top of my head, I have confidence in Coach Tang. I think this team comes out battling. I think that Coach Tang wills, W-I-L-L, wills this team into being feisty and getting after it and defending and all of the things that it'll take. This is a Coach Tang deal, if you ask me. So I hope it works out well, because, boy, I'd like to see K-State play on. I'd like to see them play well into the tournament too.
Well, they're going to have to. They're absolutely going to have to.
No question.
Because, I think that, as we've talked about before, an NIT, I think is far from confirmed at this point. Not that they wouldn't get a bid.
Oh, I think they take it.
And not even necessarily that, but as to your point, what their motivation is if they do get into the NIT.
Gotcha.
And I'm thinking, if I'm Jerome Tang, I'm not even entertaining that thought in my mind right now.
Right.
I'm still trying to do everything in my power to get my team ready to go for the NCAA.
I got you.
And that's all you can do.
I got you.
Again, pregame begins tomorrow at noon, tip-off at 1 o'clock. You can hear all of it right here on KFH. We'll kick off hour number 2. We'll talk a little Jayhawks and Shockers, both of them in action this weekend as well, as they get ready for March Madness. Shockers, a little bit different scenario than the Jayhawks, but we'll talk about that as we kick off hour number 2 here on Sports Daily.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily underway here on KFH. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage in for Jacob Albracht, and Jad Chambers producing the program. Of course, you can always check out our video stream. We are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. We always appreciate our video viewers, and you can always leave comments right there. We'll be able to get to them throughout the show. The KFH hotline is also open the rest of the way at 869-1240. We talked Wildcats a lot in hour number 1. We're going to shift gears and talk Jayhawks now as we kick off hour number 2. Kansas, of course, got a large victory, 22-point win on Tuesday inside Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas State. And for their final regular season game on the road tomorrow at Houston, the Cougars are one of the best teams in America, Paul. And it's a team that, you know, they are poised to win the Big 12 conference in their very first season in that conference. The Jayhawks also do have a lot to play for because they're trying to secure their seeding for the NCAA tournament. It's going to be a tall task, though, for them to go on the road to Houston and take down the Cougars.
Yeah, we've mentioned so many times on this show just how well University of Houston defends. I mean, they are textbook, but I mean, you know, that's just the way they're coached. But anyway, it's kind of interesting that you look at the University of Kansas, and to win that game would give Iowa State a part of the Big 12 regular season championship, assuming Iowa State beats K-State, and that makes it kind of cool. But I'll tell you what, the University of Houston is a big deal. I mean, they could easily win a national championship.
Yeah.
This is that good a basketball team. If you haven't had a chance to watch much of them on ESPN or Game Day or whatever it is, you know, watch it some. They're just amazing, and it's a mindset for these guys. It's like a way of life playing defense. It's so important to them, and that's 99% of being good on defense is the desire, Tommy. Defense is not a glamorous thing, if you know what I mean. There's no glamour in defending. Boy, oh boy, it wins games.
It does. And they are in a position where this team has got the potential. I think Kansas, and Jacob and I talked about this earlier this week. Depending on the matchup, once we get into the NCAA tournament, depending on the matchup, there are teams that the Jayhawks match up well against. And if they get the right draw, if they get the right seeding, if they're in the right region, playing the right teams, they could be a team that could make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. That's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of ifs. Teams like Houston, that you know what they bring, you know that they get after it defensively each and every game. I'm not sure it really matters the matchup quite as much for a team like Houston in the tournament, because that sort of lockdown defense, you would think, translates regardless who they're playing. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. In fact, would you mind if I refine that a little bit even more?
Sure.
And that would be simply this. Maybe as far as the Jayhawks go in this tournament, it might depend upon their bench. What kind of performance do they get from the bench? How many quality minutes do they get from the bench? What kind of effort do they get from the bench? What does the bench bring to this team? Well, I'm here to tell you, and I don't think you will disagree with this. That may be the key question with regards to the success of the Jayhawks in this tournament all the way through. I don't know. It's hard to say. But can you go a tournament where you're playing as often as you play on a neutral court, having to travel, have to do all those things? Can you get by with 6 players? I'm probably going to say probably not. But if this bench comes through and gives you some quality minutes, hey, you can be very dangerous in this tournament.
We're seeing Nick Timberlake trending up.
We are
over the last
and
week or
we've
two.
talked about that.
Yeah.
We have talked about that in the last 30 days. You and I have talked about, and to a certain extent, I think I might have been poo-pooed on that a little bit. Well, Nick Timberlake, no. But boy, oh boy, he kind of proved me right the other night. But with that being said, we'll get back to your point. I'm sorry I interrupt, but you got me excited about Nick Timberlake.
Nick Timberlake is trending up. Elmarco Jackson, I think, is providing some quality minutes off the bench. It wasn't that long ago, Paul, that there was not a single bench player that I think anybody felt comfortable with them getting any kind of minutes on the floor. And it required the starters to play basically the entire game. And you're dealing with players that end up with tired legs. It's one thing when you're going through conference play and you've got a game on a Tuesday and then you're playing again on a Saturday. Maybe there's an every once in a while Saturday to Monday turnaround time. It's a lot different when you get into tournament play.
Yes,
and you're playing on a Thursday or Friday and then again on a Saturday or Sunday.
That's right.
And then you're going to do that for 2 straight weeks. You know, you've got to have players and to Bill. I know Bill Self has done this. He did it against Kansas State. He's started to filter in these bench players a little bit more and kind of thrusting them into action. And I think that the logic behind that is, hey, we're not going to win a Big 12 championship in the regular season.
Right.
So we're not really competing for that right now. We just got to get our team ready to go to try to make a deep run in March.
And I like the way you phrased that, because you made me think of something. Here's what you made me think of at this very moment with that little bit of what you said. Somebody's at KU for a reason. If you're a basketball player and you're a member of this team, there's a reason you're at the University of Kansas.
Yep.
Not everybody that wants to go to Kansas can go to Kansas. But if you're at Kansas, you're pretty darn good.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it. So you're starting to see that. And I remember talking about specifically about certain players on this team and being people. No. But there's a reason they're at the University of Kansas. And that's kind of the way I look at this. I have great expectations for the University of Kansas. I think they're obviously going to be a contender. Would not be surprised to see them in a Final Four. Would not. I know a Sweet 16. They'll get to a Sweet 16, get to a Sweet 8, or
Elite 8.
Elite 8, and then let's see what happens. Do you get to the Final Four? I don't know, but I'll tell you what. I'm starting to get confidence. We're starting to see things that make me feel that the bench is coming alive. We're starting to see some different minutes. We're starting to see, we're just starting to see some things that are really good about about the University of Kansas and their bench.
It's
I
that-
think.
Yeah, and it's that age-old question.
Yes.
What is the floor and what is the ceiling
Wow, that's a good way of looking at it.
of this Jayhawks team in March? And
that is a good question.
I think
What is it?
I think
You
it
tell
changes.
me.
Well, I think it changes game by game. I mean, it was a week ago or so
It has so far.
that I said this looks to me like a team that the floor would be they match up poorly in their opening round in the NCAA tournament against a team, and they lose in the opening game. They get upset.
Oh,
I think that might be the floor.
Well, that's anybody's floor.
But well, not necessarily, because I'm not sure that a team like Houston or a team like UConn or maybe even a team like Iowa State, I'm not sure that is their floor, because I do think that the way that those teams play a more complete game, that I don't think they'll have much of an issue at all getting through the first round. A team like Kansas, let's just say, and I'm not trying to be negative here about the Jayhawks, but we know their strengths and we know their weaknesses. And one of their weaknesses is they don't defend the three particularly well. They don't shoot the three particularly well. You match up, let's say that they're a 4 seed. Let's say worst case scenario, they're a 4 seed and they match up against a 13. Let's talk about typically what 13 seeds are. They're usually automatic qualifiers from mid-major conferences. Usually that's a 13 seed, right?
Yeah.
They come out of the Ohio Valley Conference, or they come out of the
ASUN or somebody like that.
they come, yes, a conference like that, the Sun Belt, let's say. And it's a team that they're battle tested. They've won their league.
I got you.
Usually those teams, they typically shoot the ball really
They can be
well,
pretty good.
right?
That's right.
And they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They made it to the NCAA tournament. They're going to go into the first round. They're going to come out guns blazing. They're going to be shooting a lot of threes, more than likely.
Right.
That's not a team that usually matches up pretty well. That's not a team that Kansas matches up particularly well against.
Yeah.
That could be their Achilles heel in the opening round.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's likely, but that could be a problem for them.
15 and 16, seeds are not usually, as we say, going to be that competitive. Now it happens. I mean, Chaminade is the most famous, I think, back in the days against who was it? Houston. I think I can't remember who they beat. But anyway, that's the most famous. But 13 seeds can be a problem. Can be a problem. And I like the way you put that. Although Kansas is starting to figure it out, and if they're figuring it out with their bench, just how dangerous can they be? Let's say they start getting 2 to 3 guys that can come off that bench and contribute at points. I mean, come on, 19 points the other night by what's his name?
Dickinson? No, Nick Timberlake.
Nick
Timberlake.
I went blank. But let's face 19 points. Did you see that coming? I didn't see it, but that was a big difference. I mean, it was like a nail in the coffin, particularly if for whatever that was. But anyway, there's a lot to be said for the University of Kansas. I don't know what to expect, but we'll get an idea in the Big 12. We'll have a better understanding. But
let me pose this question to you. Is this a Kansas team that can win the Big 12 tournament?
No.
You don't think they'll win the Big 12 tournament?
No, and it's not a slander to them. It's not saying I doubt them. But I just look at Iowa State. I look at Houston. I've watched them on television enough to know that those are good basketball teams. And then you take the BYUs, the TCUs, and whoever else you want to take.
Baylor's up there.
The Baylors of the world. Take any of those teams. And those teams are all potentially, on any given day of a tournament, for instance, beat the University of Kansas. Those are teams that can beat Houston and can also beat Iowa State. I don't know that that'll happen. But boy, this is going to be a dogfight, because every game, who's the wing? Let's say who's the, you get past the play-in round in the Big 12. Who's the weak link? Who do you want to face? I don't want to face any of them. I don't want to face any of those teams. I'd rather go play in the Big 10 championship. So
yeah. So as of yesterday, I know we talked a little bit about Joe Lunardi yesterday, and of course there are tons of bracketologists out there, depending on the different networks and all of that. But Joe Lunardi is the one that everybody knows.
Well, sure.
He's still got Kansas exactly where they were a day ago, which that makes a lot of sense, because it's not like there were a lot of teams that played last night.
No, that's true.
For things to move. I'm sure there will be movement after the games on Saturday, but he's currently got Kansas on the 3 line as the number 11 overall seed. It's going to be interesting, Paul, if the Jayhawks fall on the road to Houston tomorrow, and then if they make an early exit in the Big 12 tournament, could they fall to a 4 seed? Could they fall on that 4 line? I think it is possible.
I think it is.
I think that they could play their way into the 2. I think if they win tomorrow and they're able to make it to the, I don't know, semifinals maybe of the Big 12 tournament, you could potentially play your way into a 2. I mentioned it yesterday. I think it's a slim chance they could get all the way to a 1. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's realistic, but you never know. It depends on how the other teams in front of them fare. If you've got a couple of teams that lose and fall out,
that's a lot of teams to jump. That is a lot, and a lot's got to happen, to those teams, and that's probably not going to.
You've
happen.
got 5 teams in front of you.
Yeah, that's
or
a
no,
lot
I'm sorry,
of teams.
6 teams in front of you.
That's a lot of teams
that would potentially have to fall if you're going off of this bracketology.
That's a lot
for the Jayhawks to get all the way up to the 1 line. At that point, you'd have to basically win out. If you're Kansas, you'd have to win the Big 12 tournament. I think win tomorrow. And then you would need some help from teams like Duke and North Carolina and Arizona. Teams in your conference, Iowa State and Houston, would probably have to fall off as well for Kansas to leapfrog all of them to make it all the way to a 1.
Stamina, we were talking about it just a minute ago. I mean, the way you just phrased it and the way you laid it all out, game after game after game after game, it's going to take its toll physically on a basketball team. And boy, oh boy, it just goes to show you, this is a bench for the University of Kansas that if they come through, now you're talking about, Tommy, all kinds of potential success. Can it happen? Can you beat a Houston? Can you beat an Iowa State? Of course you can, but it's going to take more than just the 5 starters. It's going to take more than that, because by the time you get to start playing those teams that far into the brackets, it's going to be
they're complete teams.
That's
the teams you're going to be facing at that point are complete teams.
Complete teams.
I think that's the biggest concern about the Jayhawks.
That's my concern.
They're not a complete team.
That's my concern.
They're a really, really talented team. They're really good when they match up well and when things are clicking.
Right.
And I'm just not ready to say that they're a complete team. I don't think they've been a complete team all year. I think at this point right now, they're more complete than they were a month ago because of guys like Timberlake and Elmarco Jackson. The thing about Timberlake, we can sing his praises all day long and how he's trending up. He had a great game at home inside Allen Fieldhouse in front of a bunch of Ruckus fans.
I got you.
Right?
I got you.
What's it going to look like tomorrow when he goes to Houston?
Right.
What's it going to look like when he's in Kansas City, which I know is typically a pro KU crowd, but it's a neutral court. When you get into the NCAA tournament, is it going to be the same kind of Nick Timberlake that we saw on Tuesday, or the same kind of Nick Timberlake that we saw earlier this season where he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn?
Right. We're talking about Nick Timberlake a lot, but what about Hunter Dickinson? I mean, we had a game the other night against Kansas State. I made the comment to Jacob that I thought it was basically an average game. When the game was over, I thought, well, it was an average game. I mean, he didn't jump off the page for me, Hunter Dickinson. And yet then I turned around and I looked at the stat line and I'm thinking, 20 rebounds. Are you kidding me? I mean, what did I mean? I mean, I'm getting so used to what he does, and I expect what he does to happen so much. I'm becoming jaded to a little bit. He's not, at the first of the season, go, wow. And now you go, well, I'm expecting it. I mean, what? I mean, come on, this is what I want. And Hunter Dickinson is probably the key to the run in the Big 12 championship. I mean, if you can get production from him, and that's what it's going to take. He's going to have 25 points. He's going to have 15 rebounds.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't?
No. Okay. Look, he's one of the best players in America. He's an All-American.
Player of the year, maybe?
For sure.
Okay.
But I think that everybody knows what he does and what he does well. And there have been games that Kansas has not looked good at all, and Dickinson has gotten his. So I'm not sure that that's the X factor. I think it becomes it's the expected thing.
Right.
You need to have your All-American play like an All-American.
Yes, you do.
You absolutely have to have it. But I'm not sure that's the X factor. I think a healthy Kevin McCullough down the stretch is a huge part of it as well.
Of course.
I think having a guy like Johnny Furphy hit his shots.
Yes.
And he's shot the ball
and he's doing well,
pretty well over the last month or so.
Streak, yes.
That's essential. And an assertive DeJuan Harris offensively. I think all those things are going to be X factors for the Jayhawks. DeJuan Harris on Tuesday night, there were a handful of plays that, he took the ball to the hoop. And he doesn't always do that, but he did on Tuesday. And, we've been begging, at least I've been begging all season long, for DeJuan Harris to take over games offensively.
Right.
And because I know that he just really hasn't, really consistently. So I think that's going to be a key as well. When we look at the Houston game tomorrow, Paul, Houston is trying to win a Big 12 championship.
That's correct.
Don't forget, Houston came to Allen Fieldhouse not that long ago. It was maybe 4 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. And if you remember, the Jayhawks were underdogs in that game at home. They were home underdogs, and Kansas basically took it to Houston inside Allen Fieldhouse. It's going to be different tomorrow on the road, but this is a Kansas team that has beat Houston before. What do you think it's going to take for Kansas to sweep the season series and maybe deny Houston a Big 12 regular season championship?
Control the basketball, no turnovers. Don't let the defense of Houston, overshadow what you do. Get the ball down low, and you have a shot. And by the way, there's a real potential of having co-champions in the Big 12. Coach, and that means KU wins, and that means that
Iowa State
beats
Kansas
State.
Yep.
So there's a real chance of and I'm not so sure that that's bad for the conference, because really and truly those are two top 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the country between Iowa State and the University of Houston, and there's nothing to be shameful about that, to be co-championship with either or those teams. But that's a real shot, could really happen. But the University of Kansas is not exactly Swiss cheese. They're going to go and they're going to put up a fight. There's got to be a pride. There's got to be a pride element for the University of Kansas before they go into this tournament. Bill Self is telling them, you got to play well. You got to play well at Houston. And let's go into the tournament playing well. Beat Houston. Let's go into this tournament and let's play well. That's kind of exciting. Kansas can win this tournament. I mean, I'm talking about the Big 12 tournament.
Okay.
They can win this tournament.
I just asked you if
man,
you could, and you said no.
Well, no. I guess, I guess they can. I guess I'm being.
You're not sure.
I'm not.
You're
sure.
not sure, and that's okay.
But they've got some things got to happen, and that is depth plays well. The depth of this basketball team plays well, and I'm not convinced that that's a full-time thing yet.
Right. Do you know by any chance what KU's road Big 12 record is this season?
Yeah, it's not good. It's how many? No,
2-6.
Yeah, it's horrible.
2-6 on the road.
Nobody's used to that.
Typically not what we see from the Jayhawks.
That's right.
They've got a chance to get their biggest road win of the season tomorrow. The good thing, if you're wanting to tune into both games, I'm talking K-State and KU, is that K-State tips at 1, KU tips at 3 on the road against Houston. So you've got a chance to tune in and watch both games tomorrow back to back.
The KU Houston game, must watch TV. If you're a basketball fan, that's must watch, because it's going to be a lesson. I'm convinced it's going to be a battle. I mean, there's still pride with the University of Kansas. You put on a Jayhawk uniform, there's still that pride element, and you're going to go into the University. These are newcomers to our conference. We let them in. Are we going to let the University of Houston walk away with a conference championship the first year they come in? Because if they do, it's Katie bar the door. They're going to continue to get good athletes. And their NIL's just out the roof. In a city like the University of Houston, there's some NIL there, so we're looking good. So but it's going to be must watch. I know what you're going to be doing.
Well, I'll be tuned in. I'll be watching both games.
I wouldn't be surprised if you hop on a plane and fly down to Houston. I'm not going to be surprised. A man of your wealth and position.
Oh, okay.
I mean, come on. I can see.
Let's tone it down a little bit.
I can
there,
see
Paul.
you chartering a plane.
Let's tone it down.
If you charter a plane, can I go with you?
Well, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends on how big the plane is. I mean, is it a 2-seater? Is it a 4-seater?
Is
it an 8-seater?
Jad, don't you be laughing at that.
Is it an airliner? What are we talking about here?
Stop it, Jad. Come on now. Don't encourage him.
My final point on this KU Houston game, if I'm Kelvin Sampson, head coach of Houston, I'm telling my team, you have a chance to win a Big 12 regular season championship in our very first year in the conference.
Boy, that's the words.
And the team that we could beat to win that conference championship is a team that had the longest streak of Big 12 championships ever. and you've got a chance to beat them tomorrow
Oh.
and win a championship in your very first year in the conference.
Sure, you've never coached college basketball?
Never have.
That's what I would have said. That's
Never have.
exactly what I would say.
Guarantee you that's what Kelvin Sampson is saying.
You bet.
Again, tip-off for that game in Houston will be at 3 o'clock tomorrow, a big one on tap for the Jayhawks. On the other side of the break, we'll talk some Shocker basketball. They are on the road tonight at Tulane as they wrap up their American Conference regular season and look to make a run in the American Conference tournament. We'll talk about that next on Sports Daily. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on a Friday here on KFH. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, Jad Chambers. During the break, we spent just a couple of minutes just talking a little high school action, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention that state basketball is underway right now. And I read, Paul, that Heights and Northwest are guaranteed to play each other for a state championship.
There
In 6A. So, I mean, that's always cool when you've got, a couple of local schools that are going to be battling it out to try to win a state championship.
Yeah, big have-nots in the City League in basketball. At least that's the way it seems like, and it seems like that in football now too. But anyway, it's those are two really, really good basketball teams. So congratulations to them. At least Wichita City League is going to have a state championship no matter what happens.
Yeah, so of course, those state championship games are taking place all over the state. We've got someone that works with us here at Odyssey that her daughter is part of the girls team at Andover, and Andover is a great girls basketball program.
They are. They're really good.
And so, of course, the 5A, that tournament is going on in Emporia yesterday and today, so that's going to continue. Capon and Mays South on the boys' side, they advance in 5A as well. So a lot of local teams, and I know we don't spend quite as much time here on this program with state basketball as we do football when that happens, but we do have quite a few local programs that are making an impact and competing to win state championships in basketball.
Oh, that is so cool. Boy, I'll tell you what, that really makes it more interesting for guys like you and me. Congratulations to Heights and to Northwest. Go get a championship, guys.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game to see those two battle it out to win a state championship. Shifting gears, we've talked Wildcats on this program. We've talked Jayhawks on this program today. We're going to talk Shockers. Their final regular season game is tonight on the road at Tulane. It's a late tip, 8 o'clock. You'll be able to hear all the action on KEYN with Mike Kennedy. But this is a game, Paul, and we talked about it briefly yesterday, that the Shockers, they've got to have as well. They've got something to play for because it's all about seeding in the American Conference Tournament. If they win this game tonight and then they need a couple of other things to happen, they could play their way out of that play-in round. And I think that's obviously going to be important for Wichita State in the tournament next week.
Well, you want that to happen because, we talk about playing well. It seems like, well, you win 3 of the last 4. We talked about this, I think, was it yesterday or the day before? You win 3 of the last 4. Now build off of it. For guys' sakes, we've all been waiting for that moment, haven't we? All through this entire basketball season, we've been waiting for that moment. You catch on, you get it, you understand it, you come together, whatever term you want to use. And now you've got 3 out of 4 wins. Now you build on it. Build on it tonight because I'm actually wanting to think to myself, go ahead and get that bye. Why not make a run? Why not make a run if you can? Make a run in the American Conference. And I think that would be so cool. By the way, that'll help this basketball team for next year. That'll help with the portal. That'll help with NIL. That'll help with, well, you name it, it'll help with it. You make a run, it'll help everything about this basketball tournament, and mostly it'll help with the sanity of the coaching staff because they've gone crazy this year.
It will, I think, at least maybe give a slight bit of optimism entering the offseason. I mean, make no mistake about it.
No, you're right. No, you're right.
Make no mistake about it. It's been a tough year.
Oh.
It's been a tough year from top to bottom. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But if you can end on a more positive note, to give that program, at least a little bit of momentum going into the offseason, I think that's going to be essential.
Absolutely.
These are two programs, Paul, I think are moving in different directions. Wichita State has won 2 in a row. They can make it 3. It would be their longest winning streak of the season. Can you believe that? It'd be their longest winning streak of the season if they can get it done tonight at Tulane. Tulane, on the other hand, they've lost 7 in a row. And it's a team that it wasn't that long ago that, they were, I don't want to say potentially contenders for an American Conference championship, but they at least were in the mix and they were competing to be at a respectable place in the conference. But the bottom has fallen out for the Green Wave as they've lost 7 in a row. They're 4-13 in conference play. They're 13-16 overall. And so, I don't know. It's going to be whenever you are going into a hostile environment. Of course, the Shockers headed down to New Orleans for this game tonight. It's a tough task. The Shockers have not been good on the road this year. They're 2-9 on the road. But if you've got a team that the bottom is falling out and has fallen out with Tulane, I don't know. I think the expectation should be that you go down there and you get one.
Go get it. That's absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, Tommy. That's exactly right. You've got momentum. Let's go build on it. Something good can come. I mean, I wish that the Shockers had a few more wins. And how do you know they don't get into one of these tournaments? And I don't even know how many of their tournaments there are.
I don't think that that's likely.
Yeah, I know. But I mean,
I think it's an American Conference championship or bust at this point. But they're not an NIT team.
But how important is a great run to this coaching staff?
Oh, I think it's huge.
Oh, it is huge.
I think it's huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well said. It is huge. It's big because, show recruits, show guys in the portal, show whoever you got to go get to come join this basketball team just exactly where we're at, how we have switched gears, how we have crossed to the other side. We're there. We're right there. Come be a part of us. And that's how big it is. Do I dare think? No, I'm not even going to. I was going to say something stupid like go win the whole tournament. I don't know that that's possible, but stranger things have happened. But you're playing well. You get a break here or there. Get a run. Is it possible to get to the semis? I believe it is.
Yeah, I think
it's possible to get to the semis in this conference.
We've seen this,
right?
We've seen this program throughout conference play be able to hang with teams that are better than them.
That's right.
I would imagine, just thinking about it, their most marquee conference victory, there haven't been very many of them, but their most marquee conference victory is probably that SMU game. But SMU right now, they're, tied for 4th in the conference with Memphis and UAB. That's probably their signature conference win, I would say. But they were able to hang with Memphis in both of their games.
Right.
They competed well against Florida Atlantic in one of those matchups. They've got the talent, I think, to be able to compete. And you know what? I said it yesterday. You have to view this tournament as a win or go home scenario. And that's really what it is.
Right.
You win a game, you play again the next day. You lose, you're done for the year.
Right.
That's basically the way that it's got to be. And that's the message that I would anticipate Paul Mills is communicating with the team. Let's talk a little bit about what it might take for Wichita State to find their way out of that play-in round, that opening round of the American tournament next week. They're currently tied with UTSA at 5-12. And there are 3 teams underneath them. So you're looking at Rice, Tulane, and Temple. And I guess they're also tied with Rice at 5-12. So Tulane and Temple are both 4-13 in conference play. Wichita State, they hold a couple of the tiebreakers, which is good for them. Here's the important thing, Paul. They have to win tonight. They have to beat Tulane tonight. If they don't beat Tulane tonight, I think that at that point, it extinguishes any chance of them not playing in that play-in round. More than likely, they will be playing in that play-in round if they lose tonight against Tulane. So you got to have that one number one. You need a couple of other things to happen. You need a UTSA loss. You probably need a Rice loss, although I'm pretty sure that Wichita State holds the tiebreaker against Rice, but you'd like to see that. Tulsa is right above Wichita State at 6-11. East Carolina is right after that at 7-10. So there are a couple of different things I think that could happen where you've got Wichita State not having to play in that play-in round.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty accurate. You don't want that play-in round because you want to go straight to the regular tournament and have that run. And I think that Wichita State is capable of having that run, having seen how they've played in at least 3 of the last 4 games. So, it's one of those things. You go play, you're playing for next year. I'll tell you what, this is a coaching staff that needs a good run. You get that good run, and it literally changes the mindset of this basketball team. And what's even more important, you start changing the hearts and minds of the fans at Wichita State and doing the things it takes to get butts back into the seats at the Roundhouse. I mean, golly, we want to see that place rocking and rolling, but it takes wins. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, I think the chicken in this case, you've got to win games. You've got to win games and give the fans something to cheer about. And a win tonight will help that a lot. And I'd say, I mean, did you ever dream you'd be saying a team that's 4-13 in the conference, you'd say, this is a big game. This is a big game for Wichita State. But it is a big game for Wichita State.
So they're 5-12 in conference, and you can, with the win tonight, get to 6-12, which is still a disappointing conference season, no doubt about it. But at least you get to that 6-win mark in the conference. So it is essential in that regard. And look, this is what I want to see from Wichita State tonight on the road. I want to see, we know that Colby Rogers has started to heat up. He's combined for 54 points in the last 2 wins that the Shockers have had, the game against UAB and the game against Rice. We know he's the leading scorer for Wichita State. I'm confident he'll be able to follow it up tonight with a good performance. I think the X factor tonight is what can Xavier Bell do offensively. And he's kind of been a Jekyll or Hyde type player for Wichita State. There have been games that he's looked phenomenal in, and there have been games that he's been really, really quiet in. He's reached double figures in 3 of the last 5 games for Wichita State. He needs to make it 4 of the last 6. He's got to do that tonight. Get to double figures, be that secondary offensive threat for Wichita State. And if he can do that, and considering that, I'm basically expecting Colby Rogers to do what Colby Rogers has done throughout the season and be effective offensively. If you've got that 1-2 punch on the offensive end of the court, I do like Wichita State's chances.
How important is the paint to tonight, do you think?
I think it's big. I think the defensive paint is more important than, what Kenny Poto or Quincy Ballard will do on the offensive end.
I was wondering.
And not that I don't think that they're important in the post. I think they absolutely are offensively. But I want to see the rebounding effort for Wichita State be strong tonight on the defensive end. I want to see Kenny Poto and Quincy Ballard, assert themselves early on and grab those rebounds and set the tone early on. The narrative all season long, especially in conference play for Wichita State, is that they might get out to early leads and then things start to fall apart for them in the second half.
Right.
And they give up those big leads. You could say they collapse. You could say they choke. That sort of thing has happened throughout the conference play. I think it's just the reality of it. You have to avoid that tonight. And you've got to avoid it by making clutch shots in the second half. And I'm looking at Colby Rogers and Xavier Bell to do that.
Got to do that. But I'm glad you brought up Poto because for my money, I'm that middle of the paint kind of guy. I'm that guy that understands the importance of having a dominant presence inside the paint. Changes the aspects of all kinds of it. It changes attacking the basket for the other team. What's in the paint for the other team. Rebounding, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds in the paint, and a Kenny Poto can have so much impact on how this game turns out. Control that. If you can control the paint, it makes it easier for those guys on the perimeter. There's no question about that. So I like your take on that. It is important. Of course, you got to shoot the ball effectively. You got to shoot the ball effectively from the 3. If you do that, man, we're looking at a win and maybe even a run in the tournament. And if they do that,
look,
okay,
I know. I got you. This is a team. This is a team all year long. They turn the ball over. It's what they do. It's who they are. I'm not going to sit here and say they can't turn the ball over tonight because they're going to. They're going to. It's just a matter of limiting that as much as they can.
I got you.
It is a must-win game tonight for Wichita State on the road at Tulane if they want to avoid the play-in round in the American Conference Tournament and try to make a run. Anything is possible. Anything could happen. And it starts tonight. It's a late tip, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, 8 o'clock tip in New Orleans. Shockers at Tulane. And again, you can hear all the action on KEYN. By the way, Shocker Baseball, another series for them this weekend, and the opening game is today. You'll be able to hear that action on KFH. Shocker Baseball broadcasts are available free right here on KFH and on the Odyssey app. The opening game again today coming up at 1:45. You can download the Odyssey app and search for KFH. Our final full segment is on the way next. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, Jad Chambers, coming right back. Sports Daily on KFH.
.97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Join our team at Don DeLinger Construction and be part of a 100% employee-owned and family-operated business. Become an invested stakeholder with our employee stock ownership program. Take advantage of opportunities to develop and grow on the job, in the classroom, and on the project. We are now hiring heavy equipment operators and construction laborers to be part of our success and future. Apply online today at dondelinger.build. What will you build?
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/Lutz and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/LUTZ. FanDuel.com/LUTZ. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues non-available. Bonus bets expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
Make your money go further at Crazy J's Furniture and Sleep Shop with 2 convenient locations to serve you. Open 7 days a week, east at 1026 South Oliver, west at 604 North Tyler. Rugs starting at $39. Mattresses just $99. Bunk beds only $299. Sofa and love seats from $799. Delivery, setup, and special financing available. No credit needed and instant approvals. Wichita's favorite furniture and mattress store for 3 generations and counting. Nobody sells beds for less than Crazy J's.
The safest deal in town. Who makes your first impression all it could be? Pave the way. Pave the way.
Are you looking to pave your parking lot or driveway but aren't sure who to call? Trust the professionals at Pave the Way. They're the leaders in the pavement industry and do the job right at a price that won't break the bank. Call 316-990-5855 today for a fast, free estimate. You'll be glad you did.
Pave the way. Kicking asphalt every day.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy?
Totalmente.
And you get unlimited 5G data, $25 a line for 4 lines on the unlimited plan, at an amazing price with no contracts. Should you switch to Total by Verizon? Definitely. Find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. Monthly license you activate without a pay plus taxes and fees. Discount begins the month after you enroll. Additional terms apply. See website for data management practices.
Without the ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Plumbing troubles? Call the experts at Superior Plumbing, your best choice for brand name parts, professional plumbing repairs, and licensed certified technicians. Serving Wichita over 50 years for sump pumps, water heaters, showers, tubs, sinks, faucets, water softeners, and more. Online at SuperiorPlumbingICT.com.
Superior Plumbing will come a-running because we care, treat you fair and square. And our name says it all, Superior.
684-8349.
Picture this. It's Saturday morning and you're on your John Deere compact tractor. You're effortlessly breaking ground on your new landscaping project. Next, you're moving piles of rocks just by moving a lever. And now you're enjoying the warmth of the sun as you clear brush across your pasture. We could keep trying to put you in the moment, but to really understand everything you can do with the John Deere compact tractor, you just have to get in the seat. Learn more at johndeere.com/get in the seat or visit a dealer near you.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
Give and give.
This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a new Samsung Galaxy A15 for just $99. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah! Good talk.
Switch to Straight Talk for plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. In-store activation on single silver unlimited plan or higher required. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the silver unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
It's time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Hey, just a quick correction and retraction from our last segment. I misspoke, Paul. I said that Northwest and Heights would be playing for a championship. They're playing in the semifinal round. One of those two teams will end up competing for a state championship.
All right, good. Okay.
For state basketball. So that's great, though, that at least one of those teams is guaranteed.
Right.
We'll have a Wichita area team playing for a state championship in 6A. So appreciate the folks that pointed that out. And that was a misspoke. I guess I misspoke in that
Well,
scenario.
I agreed with you, so you can blame us both.
It's all good. No
It's
worries.
all good.
Welcome back to Sports Daily, our final full segment here as we wrap up the week. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, and Jad Chambers with you. Our KFH hotline open for a little bit longer, 869-1240. We have a couple of moments left, Paul, and I want to shift gears back to the NFL briefly. We talked yesterday about Russell Wilson and about how the Broncos are allowing him to talk to other teams before the new league year opens and gets going next week. There's speculation that there are a couple of teams that he is in the process of meeting with or already has met with. One of them, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Apparently, he is on his way to Pittsburgh, or he was spotted at an airport going to Pittsburgh, something like that. And then there was also speculation that he could be meeting with the New York Giants, who have Daniel Jones on their roster, but maybe they're looking for what they might think could be an upgrade from Daniel Jones. I'm not sure, but two potential teams linked to Russell Wilson. Your thoughts on those two teams?
Well, and the one team that I'm surprised you didn't mention was Atlanta. We had talked about Atlanta. That's probably the most famous team that looks like to me needs a quarterback, at least with Daniel Jones. There's investment in Daniel Jones with the Giants. So that's a little surprising. But golly, Russell Wilson is a commodity.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson is proven. The question is, what's he got in the tank? That I guess that's still the question. And that's if he still has something in the tank, well, then he can take a team that's down in the lower echelon or say middle of the road, and he can turn them into something special, turn them into a team that can get into the playoffs and that kind of thing. I mean, he's got that kind of ability. We've seen it before. The question is, what's he got left? But I mean, I don't know. And who wouldn't want to take a chance on him, because a lot of his salary is going to be already eaten up, isn't it?
Well, if the price is right, I think that's the key.
Price is right.
If the price is right, there are probably several teams that wouldn't mind taking a swing at him.
I think you're right. I think, and it's going to happen. And why? Because the quarterback spot in the NFL is probably the most important position in all professional sports. That's why.
I think that Pittsburgh makes some sense. They don't have Mitch Trubisky, which he wasn't going to start anyway. But Trubisky yesterday signed a deal to go back to Buffalo to be Josh Allen's backup there for the Bills. So Trubisky is not part of that team anymore. It doesn't look like Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy for the Steelers, I don't think, long-term. And I know they had Mason Rudolph. He's not going to be a starter in the NFL either. So they're quarterback needy. And I think why it might make some sense, Paul, is that I think that Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin, I think they might work well together. I don't think it would be a Russell Wilson, Sean Payton situation like he had in Denver, where clearly you knew those guys weren't on the same page. They weren't going to be working long-term together. I think that a Russell Wilson, Mike Tomlin matchup might be a little bit closer to what Wilson had with Pete Carroll in Seattle.
I think you're exactly right. Tomlin's that no-nonsense kind of guy. I mean, he's not that.
He is, but he also has the back of his players a lot.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure Sean Payton is that guy.
And that's that's my point, is that he's that kind of guy that if he wants you, he signs you. There's a purpose.
Yeah,
there's going to be a purpose.
You're his guy.
You're his guy.
And everybody knew, the entire world knew, that when Sean Payton got hired in Denver after the Nathaniel Hackett situation did not work out, everybody knew that Russell Wilson was not Sean Payton's guy.
That's right.
Peyton was very clear about that. Really, he said everything except coming out and saying that Russell Wilson is not my quarterback.
Kind of a weird deal, but that's the way. But
you knew
that's
that.
exactly.
Everybody knew that.
That's right, and we knew that. We understood that, so it's okay. That's that's the way it goes. I would have thought there would have been a melding of to the hiring of a coach to what you've got, because that's an investment. I mean, Denver had what, nearly $50 million,
a ton of money,
$50 million, I think, invested over the course of the next year, 2 years, $50 million, something
and
like
they
that.
mortgaged their future. They gave away
That's
a ton
right.
of draft
And
capital.
they gave away all those first round. They gave away two, if it strikes my memory, 2 first-round draft.
They
picks.
traded Noah Fant. They traded
Right.
Drew Lock, and then a bunch of draft picks to Seattle to get Russell Wilson.
Now, I thought, coming out of Pittsburgh, I thought Pickett was going to be one of those guys that I really had a lot of confidence. I liked him. I liked him a lot. Is he not going to be an NFL quarterback? It's still a little early.
I think the jury is out on his effectiveness.
I agree.
But looking at a team like Pittsburgh last season, that they still found their way into playoff contention, even though I think that from top to bottom, the talent wasn't necessarily there at that level.
Right.
That's a testament to Mike Tomlin.
But
maybe Wilson could be that guy.
I like Tomlin taking a look at Russell Wilson. I think if those two have a meeting of the minds, I think that can change a lot of things.
I think so
for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like it, and if I'm Tomlin, I like it.
This is going to be, in my mind, the most interesting story to play out in the National Football League
that will
this
be.
offseason. What will happen with Russell Wilson? We'll keep tabs on it as the days and weeks unfold. We're going to take our final timeout of the show. We'll come back, tell you what's on the network next on Sports Daily. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap things up for us for the week. Coming up on the network today, Jim Rome follows us at 11. Shocker Baseball takes on Long Beach State right here on KFH. You can hear all that action beginning at 2:45 this afternoon. 7 o'clock tonight, Shocker Basketball on the road at Tulane on KEYN. Tomorrow, we'll have coverage of Kansas State basketball at home against Iowa State right here on KFH. Another Shocker Baseball game at 1:45 on Saturday on KNSS. And on Sunday right here on KFH beginning at 12:45. Paul, appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.
See you Monday, big boy.
All right. For Jad Chambers, Paul Savage, I'm Tommy Castor. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.